Good day, everyone, especially to our instructor, Miss Catherine Dumaas, and to my dear EDUC student. By the way, my name is Marin Lustar Sisteria, and I am the group leader of Group 1. Please allow me to introduce my members. So here's the first one, Mr. Andre Joseph Herman Barcoma, Miss Cherry Agbon, Miss Cherry Antal, Ms. Rina May Moran, Ms. Rina Upala Pirigno, and lastly, Ms. Riza Casanda Dizera. And we are going to discuss the measurement, testing, assessment, and evaluation. I demand you all to please listen and focus about the lesson that we're going to discuss.
Measurement. Measurement is a term used to describe the assignment of the number to given assessment. The number can be a raw score or a score based on a normal distribution curve. The process of quantifying this number is separate from using the information to evaluate the student's outcomes and achievements. Question. In the field of education, what do teachers measure and what instrument do they use? Teachers are particularly interested in determining how much learners a student has acquired compared to standards or in reference to other learners in a group. They measure particular elements of learning like their readiness to learn, recall of facts, demonstration of specific skills, or their ability to analyze and solve problems. Tests, oral presentation, written reports, portfolios, and rubrics are the tools or instruments that they use to obtain pertinent information.
Testing. Testing is a formal systematic procedures for gathering information. A test is a tool comprised of a set of questions administered during fixed period of time under comparable conditions for all students. It is a instrument to use measures and contract make decisions and use to measure a learning progress of a student. Teacher scores test is order obtain numerical description of student performance and to quantify Latin variables like creativity, motivation, commitment, work, satisfaction of student, among others. We all know testing is formal systematic procedures for gathering information, tools, and instrument to measure a contract and make decision. A test is a tool comprised of set question admired during the fixed period of time under comparable conditions for all students. Education tests may be used to measure learning progress student which is formative purpose or comprehensive covering extended time, which is summative.
There are several typologies of tests. For a long time, tests have been an integral part of education. However, it is important to note that it is not the end-all or be-all education. Nonetheless, we acknowledge its significance as a source of information in helping teachers provide the best learning experience for their students. The successful use of a test depends on the purpose and the construct to be measured. An objective test cannot be used to gather opinions or determine a student's position on a social issue. An oral test cannot be used to ascertain the writing skills of students, and probability tests cannot appropriately diagnose disabilities. Understanding of types of tests is beneficial to get the most of them. In terms of the way the responses are made, a test may be oral, written, or performance-based.
According to mode of response, in terms of the way responses are made, a test may be oral, written, or performance-based. In an oral test, answers are spoken. Hence, it is usually used to measure oral communication skills. It may also be used to check students' understanding of concept, theories, and procedures. Unlike written tests, it is minimally discriminatory and more inclusive, especially for learners who are dyslexic. Plagiarism is also less likely during an oral test, but it consumes a lot of time and effort and may even be stressful for some students. It especially favors extrovert and eloquent students who are very good with their ways of words. It is also not appropriate for abstract reasoning tasks.
Thank you, Ms. Moran, for that very informative knowledge. To continue the discussion, we may move on to the next topic, which is the written test. According to the definition that are presented in the screen, it is clearly stated that written tests are the activities that learners select and provide immediate action to the test. And so, written was one of the most important tests in academic, and it can be executed to a large group of students at the same time. It can measure the student communications, and in addition, this will determine also the lower and the higher cognition of a person by the accurate questions. So that's all. And so, written was one of the most important tests in academic, and it can be executed to a large group of students at the same time. It can measure the student communications, and in addition, this will determine also the lower and the higher cognition of a person by the accurate questions. So that's all.
Good day, everyone. My name is Rina Peregrino, and I am going to continue the reporting about the types of tests according to mode of response. The next test is the performance test. These tests activities that require students to demonstrate their skills or ability to perform specific actions. So, when we say performance test, this test requires students to demonstrate their skills or ability that they have. Most aptly, this test is called performance tests, where activities such as presentation tasks, demonstration tasks, inquiry tasks are often included. One example of it is the reporting, where students or an individual could show off their skills in explaining things. Another one is solving problem formulas, where they can show their ability for critical thinking, and many more. So, performance tests are designed to be more authentic and meaningful. Authentic in a sense that it is real and they are actually involved in a certain activity, and meaningful because they are able to showcase their skills and ability. Though there's a lot of positive reasons why performance tests are very efficient, one downhill is that it costs money for it needs materials in order for us to successfully do it.
Hi everyone, my name is Risa Cassandra Odisera, and today I'm going to discuss about the performance assessment. The performance assessment is a task a student must perform instead of writing a test. It means this assessment is required that students to do or to generate a performance or activities that can provide directly or indirect evidence of their knowledge, skills, and abilities in academic domain. The performance assessment includes activities such as the problem-based learning, the inquiry task, demonstration task, exhibition task, exhibits, presentation task, and lastly, the capstone performance. The problem-based learning. This is the student-centered approach in which students learn about a subject by working in groups to solve an open-ended problem. In these activities, it helps the students to create an idea and their own business plans and will solve societal needs. And next is inquiry tasks. In these tasks are a form of active learning and allow the students to develop their thinking and problem solving. This is also the task that the students are asked to collect a data in order to their understanding about a particular topic or issue. And the third one is the demonstration task. In this task, This is assess the students to view a short demonstrations, record their observations, and write an explanation of what they observed. And next is the exhibition task. This also refers to projects, presentations, or products through which the students exhibit what they have learned. And therefore, the exhibits are the visual presentations or displays that need a little or no explanation from the creators. And next is the presentation task. In this task, this is a work or task that is performed in front of audience. Like for example, the teacher are giving us a task like a reporting that we will perform it or discuss it in front of our classmates. That's the presentation task. And the next is the capstone performance. These are the tasks that is occur at the end of the program of the study. These tasks are designed to be authentic, meaningful, in-depth, and multidimensional. However, cost and efficiency are some of the drawbacks. And the importance of this assessment is it contains the activities that obtain the content knowledge, acquire skills, and develop work habits that practice application of all three to real-world situations. Because it represents a set of strategies for skills and work habits through the performance of tasks that are meaningful and engaging to students. That are the significance of this assessment.
According to ease of quantification of response. As the way of scoring, a test may be classified as objective or subjective. Objective. Tests can be corrected and quantified quite easily. The word objective refers to the scoring, indicates that there is only one correct answer. Objective. Objective is a type of a task that requires students select the correct response from several alternatives or to supply a word or short phrase to answer the question or complete a statement. Subjective. Test includes restricted and extended response essays. Test has no specific answer because it is an option basis, although there will be a certain facts and understanding expected in the answer. Subjective is a type of test that permits the students to organize and present an original answer. It is include either short answer questions or long general questions.
Administrations and program staffs assessments are used to make decisions regarding promotions or recitations of students and arrangement of faculty development programs. So, assessment of administrations and program staffs are used to make decisions about the students' recitations or promotion as well. The organizations of faculty development programs, admins have access to almost everything while staff have some limitations like editing the event.
A group test is administered to a class of students or a group of examinees simultaneously. It was developed to address the practical needs of testing. The test is usually objective and responses are more or less instructive. It does not lend itself for in-depth observation of individual students. Additionally, students are assessed on all items of the test. Information obtained from group tests is not as comprehensive as those from individual tests.
Standardized tests are prepared by specialists who are versed on the principle of assessment. They are administered to a large group of students or examiners under similar conditions. Scoring procedures and interpretation are consistent. There are available manuals and guides to aim in the use for a long period of time, provided that they are used for whatever they were intended for. Results are generally consistent. Commonly, Standardized tests consist of multiple test choices used to distinguish between students. Results of standardized tests serve as an indicator of instructional effectiveness and the reflection of the school's performance.
The criterion reference
Norm
interpretations
reference.
describe
When we
each
say
other
norm
student's
reference, it
performance
is an
against an
evaluative
agreed upon
instrument
or
that measures a
pre-established
student's
criterion
performance
or level
of a group on
performance.
the same
This
test.
is not objectives
I
or
know we are all
outcomes.
familiar
This is
with
the
this way of
mastery test
interpreting
that
results. I
the
know
CAT
all of
score
us or
is
some of us
used
have already
to determine whether or not a student has
experienced
achieved
this.
mastery or a
If
given unit of
have
instructions.
already experienced this.
This is
So
also
it's a
the kind of
comparison that
test
happened in a
score
certain
as a
exam or
measure
test
of
where each
analytic
individual
skills
are
and
being
abilities
ranked based on the
of
result
an
that they
individual
have.
or a
For
group
example, out
that
of
can
50
demonstrate
students,
from a
Michael,
clearly
which is a
defined
student, has ranked
contents
third.
or behavior
So,
domain.
let's
The
remember when we say
criterion
norm
reference
reference,
interpretations describe
it's
each other
about
student's
comparing the
performance
results
against an agreed upon
of the
or
certain
pre-established
individuals.
criterion or level performance.
Fun fact
This
about
is not objectives or
non-reference
outcomes.
is that
This is the mastery
actually
test that
standardized
the CAT
achievement
score is
falls
used to
under this
determine
category.
whether or not a student has achieved mastery or a given.
Personality tests. Developed in the 1920s, since then, quite a number of personality tests were developed. A personality test has no right or wrong answers, but it measures one personality and behavior style. Personality tests initially intended to aid in the selection of personnel in the armed forces. It is used in recruitment as it aids employers in determining how a potential employee will respond to various work-related activities. Personality development activities can be arranged for students in school. Personality tests determine personality strengths and weaknesses.
Achievement test is a measure students' learning as a result of instructions and training experiences. When we used summatively, they can serve as a basis for promotion to the next grade. In contrast, aptitude tests determine a student's potentials to learn and to do new tasks. At this point, we can be asked, is there a relationship between aptitude and achievement? If aptitude tests administered prior to instructions and result of an achievement test are obtaining after instructions, then it can be investigated whether aptitude causes achievement. So, achievement test is a test given to measure skills or knowledge in certain defined subjects. These examinations can be used in a variety of ways, all of which we can be further explore these sessions, but they are frequently occur before or other significant amount of academic instructions. An achievement test would be used to determine the knowledge or ability that person has acquired regarding a subject, whereas a aptitude test that measures component one's cognitive ability such as EQ to determine an individual capabilities.
Intelligence tests
An
measures
aptitude
learners'
test
innate
determines a
intelligence or
student's
mental
potential
ability.
to learn and do
The first
tasks.
modern
It is
intelligence
designed
test
to
was
assess
published in
what a person is
1905
capable
by
of
Alfred
doing, or to predict what a
Binet
person
and
is
Theodore
able to
Simon.
learn or do given
Intelligence
direct
tests
education
have
and
continually
instructions.
evolved
It
because
represents
of
a person's
efforts
level
to
of
accurately
competency
measure
to perform a
intelligence.
certain type
It
of
has
task.
been
An
exploited
aptitude
extensively
tests are often
as a
used to
predictor
assess
of
academic
academic
potential
achievement.
or career
Intelligence
suitability
tests
and may
contain
be used to
items on
assess
verbal
either
comprehension,
mental or physical
quantitative,
talent
and
in a
abstract
variety of
reasoning,
domains.
among others, in accordance with some
An aptitude
recognized
test
theory of
determines a
intelligence.
student's potential
For
to learn and
instance,
do new tasks. It is
Sternberg
designed to
constructed a
assess
set
what a
of
person is
multiple
capable
choice
of doing
questions
or to predict
grounded
what a
on the
person is able to
triac
learn or do
theory
given
of
direct
human
education and
intelligence.
instructions.
The
It
intelligence
represents a
test
person's level of
taps into the
competency
three
to perform a
independent
certain type
aspects
of
of
task.
intelligence:
An aptitude
analytic,
test are often used to
practical,
assess
and
academic
creative.
potential or career.
Sociometric
Vocational
test measures the
assesses an
interpersonal
individual's
relationship
knowledge,
in a social
skills, and
group,
competence in a
such as
particular
pernomination,
occupation.
per-rating,
This
sociometric
vocational is
ranking of
also
social
known as
status.
trade. These do not
And
only
this
rely on
test
the ability or
allows the
skills of
learners
an
to
individual,
express
but
their
rather it also
preference
assesses its
in terms
competence
of
and one's
likes
knowledge. So when we say
or dislike
vocational
to
or
other
trade
member of the
knowledge,
group.
may consist
For example,
theoretical and practical
in the
tests.
school,
So it do
the
not only
learners
rely on
must
the
vote
theory, but
the candidate
it
that
also
they
has
like or that they
practical
wanted to
tests.
elect
With
in the
this,
election.
after the test
And that
or after taking the
and that is
test,
in
if
a sociometric
one
test.
individual, if they successfully passed
Sociometric
it,
test
they will be
measures
given
the
a
interpersonal
certificate of
relationship in a
qualification,
social group,
and most of it
such as
is done to
pernomination,
know or to
per-rating,
identify the effect or fruit of the
sociometric
training
ranking of
programs that
social
they have
status.
attended.
And this test allows
The number one in the instructional functions, this is a test facilitate the clarification of learning objectives. This is the constructing test that teachers are reminded to go back to the learning objectives. This is like what the teachers do when we conduct a test, like they give us objectives of what kind of test is that and what we're going to benefit from that. And
Tests provide a means of feedback to the instructor and the students. Feedback is a powerful way to achieve improvement in teaching and learning. It is a part of every teacher's practice and when used effectively can improve students' learning. This effect may be beneficial or harmful as teachers and learners tend to tailor instructional activities and learning process to the demands of the test. They can use for self-diagnosis, test results, guide teachers, and adjusting the pedagogical practice to match students' learning style. Students can assess their own learning performance. The effect may be beneficial or harmful as teachers and learners tend to tailor instructional activities and learning process to the demands of the test.
Therefore, tests can motivate learning. Moreover, it increases academic preparation, study time, and academic achievements and produce a more positive attitudes among students as well. Motivated and encouraging students to evaluate their work based on how far they have learned. Develop learners understand of the goals of their works in terms of what they are learning, provide feedback to pupils in relations to these goals. Further progress enables the learning knows that the next steps to value the effort to be success.
Tests can facilitate learning. Feedback informs students how they are doing. By acting on teachers' feedback, students can improve in subsequent performances. Be that as it may, the test boosts learning of concept. The use of other assessment strategies is needed to achieve mastery. The effect of testing had been studied by researchers, indicating improved performances when learners are given the opportunity to practice retrieval before giving the final test. A test study practice method called successive learning, conducted at appropriate intervals, can bring about long-term retention.
Tests are a useful means of overlearning. Overlearning means continued study, review, interaction, or practice of the same material even after the concept and skills have been mastered. Preparations for a scheduled test induces overlearning. While overlearning helps in retention, it dissipates over time.
and for the letter B, tests provide a mechanism of equality control, which determine the strength and the weaknesses of its curricula. Through the test, the school can determine the strength and the weaknesses of its curricula. And also, the administrations can impose a ways that improve the outcomes of the assessment and the implementation for the good outcomes.
Number 2, Tests facilitate better classification and placement decisions. So here we can see that the importance of tests depending in a sense on where should the student belong to. Thus enables the school administrators identify whether where the student should go or where the student belongs to. According to the result of their test, they are being put together with the same students who most probably has the same capability and capacity or depending on their level of ability. Through this classification system, schools can assign or transfer students to the gifted or remedial programs.
And the number 3 in the administrative functions. Number 3 is that tests can increase the quality of selection. Description. This is the kind of test that have the qualification for post and schools can select students or for a specific program. This is when the teacher can admit students like in a senior high school or in college, like giving them a test that can benefit from students, like tutorial classes or remedial class. That's it. And number 3?
Tests can be useful means of accreditation, mastery, or certification. Tests provide a means of certifying knowledge and skills. This certification will enable the student land jumps after high school. For example, in the K-12 basic education curriculum, a senior high school student who completed a technical vocational livelihood track in grade 12 may obtain a National Certificate Level 2 or NSC 2, provided she or he passed the competency-based assessment of the Technical Education and Skill Development Authority or TESDA. This certification will enable students to land jobs after high school. Another example is the licensure examination for teachers, conducted by the Professional Regulation Commission mandated by Republic Act No. 7836. LEC passers are issued license to make them eligible to practice their profession. A licensure exam serves two main purposes. The first is that it's a requirement to be a teacher, so there is really no way around that. However, the second bit of a value that a licensure exam provides the teachers insight into their own skills competencies.
Research and evaluations. Tests are useful for program evaluations and research. They are utilized in studies that determine effectiveness of technology, enhanced learning, tablet computing, and flipping classrooms, which are carried out using tests and other assessment techniques to collect data. Consequently, evaluators also utilize assessment data to determine the impact and success of their programs. So research and evaluations, they are useful for the programs. Both can provide useful informations, evaluate to enhancing effectiveness strategies to utilize assessment data to determine the impact of programs. It is essential tools for gaining insight into new domains and evaluating efficiently.
Assessment comes from the Latin word "assedere", which means to sit beside a judge. This implies that assessment is tied up with evaluation. Miller, Lin, and Grunland of 2009 defined assessment as any method utilized to gather information about students' performances. Black and William of 1998 said that it gave a lengthier definition emphasizing the importance of feedback and signifying its purpose. They stated that assessment pertained to all activities undertaken by teachers and by their students in assessing themselves.
Nature of assessment, a process that can be placed in two broad categories. which is the measure of maximum performance, and the measures of difficult performance. So let's hear the explanation between these two.
Purpose of assessment. Assessment for learning enables teachers to use information about students' knowledge, understanding, and skills to inform their teaching. Teachers provide feedbacks to students about their learning and how to improve. Use this way to assessment judges results against established standards and benchmarks. This most traditional use of assessment can reveal how the learner and the system are performing over time. In addition of this, assessment for learning pertains to the diagnostic and formative assessment tasks, which are used to determine learning needs, academic progress of students during a unit or block of instruction, and guide instructions.
Purpose assessment. Assessment as a learning AEL. Assessment as a learning employs tasks or activities that provide students with an opportunity to monitor and for their own learnings. It involves metacognitive process like reflections and self-regulation to allow students to utilize their strengths and work, their weaknesses, self and peer assessments. Rubrics and portfolios are example of AEL. So it is considers how pupils self-regulate their own learnings when students reflect on and monitor their progress and sophisticated choices about how to interact with the classroom learning's priorities.
Assessment of learning, or AUL, is summative and done at the end of a unit, task, process, or period. Its purpose is to provide evidence of a student's level of achievements in relation to curricular outcomes. Unit tests and final projects are typical examples of summative assessment. AUL is used for grading evaluations and reporting purposes. AUL provides the foundation for decisions on students' placement and promotion.
Evaluation comes in after the data has been collected from an assessment task. According to Russell and Aratian of 2012, evaluation is the process of judging the quality of performance or the course of action. As what its etymology indicates, French word evaluate. Evaluation entails finding the value of an educational task. This means that assessment data gathered by the teacher have to be interpreted in order to make sound decisions about students and the teaching learning process. Evaluation is carried out both by the teacher and his or her student to uncover how the learning process is developed.
According to the definition, they are forms of assessment because they provide information about the learner and his or her achievement. However, tests comprise only a subset of assessment tool. This is also a qualitative procedures like observations and interviews that are used in the classroom or in the assessment. I hope that you learned a lot in our discussion. And that will be all. Thank you for listening and focusing on the discussion. And now let's proceed to the relationship among measurement, test, and evaluation. If you can see it in the screen, you can see the diagram of measurement, test, and evaluation that display a graphical relationship among the concepts of measurements, test, and evaluation.
Student. Through varied learning-centered and constructive assessment task, students become actively engaged in the learning process. So students will give value and take responsibility on their own learning. So when they learn or when they start assessing themselves, most especially in the learning process, they are doing things on their own only with the guidance of the teacher. So they won't be, the teachers won't really need to be on their way step by step, but rather they will only need the guidance of the teacher. They can do or they can learn to monitor changes in their learning patterns. With the help of the assessment, they became more self-aware. They are they are careful and fully equipped. They're aware on how they think, how they learn, how they accomplish the task, and they will be able to figure out the feelings on or how they feel about the task that they have already accomplished. So with the help of the assessment, they will fully understand, or they will know what things works on them and work on the things that really not that do not work on them. So with this will lead them to a higher level of motivations and ultimately better students' achievements. So this is the reason why assessment is very important to the students, for it helps them to assess themselves, to learn the things that to open up themselves on things that works on them very well, on the things that works on them very well.
The relevance of this assessment to the teacher is to help their students to develop and to gain their skills or knowledge through this kind of assessment.
Parents. Education is a shared partnership. Following this tenet, parents should be involved in the assessment process. They are valued source of assessment information on the educational history and learning habits of their children. Also, they need to know about their child learning's progress so that they can know the areas that their children needs additional assistance in. Parents should be involved in the assessment process, especially for preschoolers who do not yet understand their development progress. Additionally, parents have an important role in the assessment process, so it is important for them to understand the purpose of the assessment that is being done on their children. Like, assessment can help identify needs of children for appropriate intervention. When the result of the school readiness year and assessment for kindergarten are shared with parents so they can use the information to conduct home-based activities for supplement their children's learnings.
Administrations and program staffs assessments are used to make decisions regarding promotions or recitations of students and arrangement of faculty development programs. So, assessment of administrations and program staffs are used to make decisions about the students' recitations or promotion as well. The organizations of faculty development programs, admins have access to almost everything, while staff have some limitations like editing the event.
Assessment provides information about students' achievements, which in turn reflect the quality of education being provided by the school. With this information, government agencies can set or modify standards, rewards, or sanction schools and direct educational resources. The Commission on Higher Education, in response to their program on quality assurance, shut down substandard academic programs of schools with graduations and low passing rates in licensure examinations.